Good morning and welcome back to my channel. Imagine a scenario in which you're married and your wife makes more money than you. And one day your child gets sick and one of you needs to quit their job and stay home to take care of the child permanently while the other one worked. And then you guys sit down and talk about it and determine that financially and even professionally, it's in the best interest of the family that the man stayed home and the wife continued working. You as a man, would you be willing to quit your job and stay home permanently to take care of the child and let your wife become the sole provider for the family financially? This is a question that came up in a discussion with a group of guys a few months ago. And the response that most of them give to this question is probably one of the main reasons why I decided that I needed to start a podcast. Now, as you can probably guess, most of the guys said no to that question. In fact, 5 out of 8 of us said they would absolutely not stay home to take care of their child and let their wife work, even if it was better for the family, even if she made more money than them. So as you can imagine, my reaction was shock. And I asked myself, what is wrong with these guys? How can someone in good faith think this way? And I'm sure that's what most of you guys will think to this question. But then, upon thinking about it further and pushing my thinking on the topic, as I always try to do, I realized that the issue is much, much, much bigger than that. I realized that the problem is not them. I realized that they're not inherently bad for thinking this way. That the problem is really about the society in which we live and the culture in which we are all raised. A culture that has tied our identity as men to being providers. And if you think about it, when you meet a woman today and ask her what qualities she's looking for in a man, what's one of the first things that she would say? It's that I'm looking for someone that's a provider. So this goes beyond just insecurities that we have as men, and it extends to expectations that society has of us. And over time, so much emphasis has been put on providing to the point that most men have focused all their energy on being providers, and mostly financially. And now, that's almost all that we identify as, to the point that if you take that away from us, we feel lost and we feel like we have nothing else to offer and we have no more power or control. So, rather than chastise men for feeling this way or for thinking this way, I think the first thing that we need to do is acknowledge where this comes from, both for men and women, and then really take steps to re-educate us on what being a man really is, educate our children on what leadership is and what leadership is not. So today, I'm going to be talking to you about leadership. And I understand that a lot of us in this generation are the way that we are, and we're probably not going to change much. So my hope is that at the very least, the next generation and the young people listening to this video are going to learn a thing or two about what it means to be a good leader, and hopefully over time build a better society and a better community for all of us. So before talking about what a good leader is, I'll start by talking about what leadership is not. And the first thing that leadership is not, and probably the most important thing that has been ingrained in us growing up, is that leadership is not a birthright. Just because you're born a man, it does not make you a leader by default. Just being born a man does not make you a leader by default, does not make you a good decision maker, does not make you very rational. Leadership is something that we all learn, that we all have to earn. Second thing is that leadership is not about power. Being a leader does not mean that you get to do whatever you want and that you get to decide on everything or that you get the last word on everything. That is not what leadership means. The third thing, and I would say probably the most critical aspect of this that we have to learn, is that leadership is not about control. Leadership is not about control. So being a leader, a good leader, is not about using things to control people, using money or feelings or any other means of control. In fact, a measure of a good leader is your ability to get people to follow you when they absolutely don't have to. Is your ability to get people to choose willingly to follow you when they don't have to. So now that we've talked about what leadership is not, let's talk about what leadership is. So then, what is good leadership? Good leadership is about service. A good leader is a servant, is someone that genuinely takes time to think about the needs of the people that they're leading and genuinely finds ways to serve those people by creating an environment, first of all, that allows them to express themselves, allows them to grow, and by so doing, making it possible for them, for your wife and your children and your family to grow and become the best versions of themselves. A true measure of a good leader is how happy and how much the people that depend on you achieve their potential. So then, what qualities do you need to become a good leader? I would say that the first quality you need as a leader is caring. As a leader, you need to genuinely, and I repeat, you need to genuinely care about the people that you're leading. Care about their feeling, care about their well-being, care about their growth, care about their fears. Just care about them. And if you genuinely care about them, you will always make decisions that are in their best interest. The second quality that you need to be a good leader is humility. And this is something that is very important because humility allows you to acknowledge that you don't know everything. As a leader, you have to be able to acknowledge your mistakes, apologize for your mistakes. You have to be able to acknowledge your weaknesses and allow and be open to learn from other people be it your wife or your children or your family members. As a leader, you need to have a sense of direction. You need to take time to think about where you're going, why you're going there, and being able to explain to people why that's the way that you need to go. And be open-minded enough to change directions over time if need be, based on circumstances. As a leader, you need to be consistent. You can't be one thing today and then the opposite tomorrow. The more consistent you are, the more people are going to trust that what you say is what you do, As a leader, there has to be consistency between what you say and what you do. You can't say one thing and do the opposite. And what you do today and say today has got to be what you do tomorrow and say tomorrow. As a leader, you need to be open-minded, which means you may have your own thinking, but then you're open to other ways of doing things and open to other people's opinions on how to do these things. As a leader, you need to be trustworthy. The people that you lead need to trust and really trust your intentions, trust your decision making, trust your values. They need to trust you and trust that if they follow you, you're not going to lead them into a hole. Because nobody, I don't care how much someone loves you, nobody in good conscience is going to follow someone if they don't trust that that person is going to lead them in the right direction. So ultimately, the question that I want you to ask yourself is the following. Imagine that today you lost your job, you lost your income, and your wife and your kids and your family did not depend on you financially anymore. In that scenario, would they still follow you? Would they still look at you as the leader? Would they still come to you for direction? If the answer to that question is no, then you may not be the leader that you think you are. So, on that note, that's it for today, and until next time.